Hello and welcome back to Geeky Brummie's Comics Roundup. It's been a while and I've got an absolutely massive pile of comics to take you through as we have a look back at the last 5 weeks in comics. Going back all the way to the 10th of July 2019, my comic pick of the week was Second Coming from Ahoy Comics by Mark Russell and Richard Pace. This comic had a bit of a history. It was originally going to be published by DC, but because of some controversial aspects of the actual title, it's moved over to Ahoy. This is a great comic. Mark's writing is really good. He's writing a lot of really good books across the comics kind of pantheon at the moment, and don't take it on face value. This has got an awful lot to say. The art really works really well, and there's a lot going on, and this is a story that I think a lot of people should read, so don't let the controversy push you off. Get out there and find a copy if you can right now. Next up I had Batman Universe #1 at DC. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by one of my favourites, Nick Derrington. This is a collection of the stories that were originally put out for the giant 100-page Walmart comics that were available in America. Not so easy to get hold of here. Nick's art is absolutely amazing. He draws a phenomenal Batman. I mean, just a sample there. And Brian Michael Bendis is one of the best writers in comics, kind of, you know, right now. So get out there and check out Batman Universe. It's that man again, Mark Russell, this time with Wonder Twins #6 from the Wonder Comics imprint at DC. This is drawn by another one of my favourite artists. Bit of a pattern today. This is Stephen Byrne, who is doing some great stuff. I mean, his work is just beautiful. I really like what Stephen's doing in there. It's clear, it's just great. This particular story with the Scrambler has a lot to say about the modern world. Mark's writing kind of conjures up some really interesting subject matters, and although the Wonder comics are kind of aimed at the younger readers, this is something that I think everybody should be reading. This story is great. It's been extended now to a 12-issue run, so this was originally going to be the end of this series. Great point to pick up this book now, so go out there and get into Wonder Twins. Next up, I had issue 32 of Supergirl from DC. This is written by Mark Andreyko with art by the comics legend Kevin Maguire, who can draw a really good Supergirl. This is Supergirl's cosmic adventures. She's now joined by her cousin's son, so I don't know what relation that makes them, but yeah, I've been really enjoying this, and Kevin is one of the best artists ever. I enjoyed his work when he was working on Justice League International. So if you haven't checked out Supergirl, give it a try right now. Also out this week from Dark Horse Comics and DC, we have issue 1 of Black Hammer Justice League by Jeff Lemire and Michael Walsh. Then we have issue 8 of Outer Darkness from Image. This is by John Layman with art by Afu Chan. I can't recommend this comic enough. It's continuing the story of the haunted house in space. It's just a phenomenal book. The writing's great, the art is great. You know, if you enjoy a kind of sci-fi themed horror story, if you were a fan of things like Event Horizon, you should be checking out Out of Darkness. It's a great book. I really don't think enough people are reading this, so get out there and pick up Out of Darkness today. Then a blast from the past with a one-off giant-sized special edition of Ecstatic from Peter Milligan and Michael Allred. Ecstatics, if you don't know, were a team that formed out of what was X-Force back in the day, a kind of reality superhero team featuring some very great characters, including one of my all-time favourites, Dupe, down here in the bottom corner. This hopefully is going to mean that we're going to get some more Ecstatics in the future. It ends with a splash page for the excellent issue #1 coming in 2020. If you haven't tried Ecstatics before, there's a beautiful omnibus edition that you can get. It's huge, looks great. If not, check out your local comic store and pick up this one-off edition. And then finally from Dynamite, we had the 5th and final edition of what's been a great little series from Christopher Hastings and David Hahn. This is the $6 Million Man, or as he is in this 5th and final part, the $6 Man. Lovely art, great fun story, really reminded me of the old TV series. So hopefully we'll get to see some more of Steve Austin's adventures in the future from Dynamite. Highly recommended. Heading forward now to the 17th of July 2019, where my comic pick of the week was Collapsat #1 from DC's Young Animals. I'm loving a lot of the DC Young Animals books, and Collapsat totally sounded up my street. This is written by Gerard Ways, who's the curator of the Young Animals series. His brother Mikey Way with Sean Simon, and art by Ilias Kuriantzis. Lovely looking art. This is the story of a DJ who, for one reason or another, ends up with a black hole in his chest. This is again a story that's saying a lot of things about a lot of stuff that will really get people. It's a real kind of story that is about things that everybody can relate to, even though it's got a guy with a black hole in his chest as a central character. Beautiful work, really nice. I can highly recommend all of the DC Young Animals books, so check this one out. Then from Marvel we have the second issue of Silver Surfer Black by Donny Cates and Tradd Moore. More cosmic adventures from the Silver Surfer, with Tradd Moore just absolutely knocking it out of the park with some phenomenal artwork. If you're a fan of the Silver Surfer or anything Marvel cosmic, I highly recommend you give this title a try. In my roundup for this week, we have the Immortal Hulk #21 by Al Ewing and standing artist Ryan Bodenheim. Then we had issue 22 of Uncanny X-Men from Marvel. This is written by Matthew Rosenberg with art by Salvador Larroca. This was the final part of Matthew's run on X-Men before all things changed with the incoming Jonathan Hickman run, but a relatively interesting run, kind of tied things up and also kind of set them things up that we don't know what's going to happen, but if you enjoy the X-Men, this was definitely a good read. I do enjoy Matthew's work. Then from Image we had the fifth and final part of Little Bird from Image, as I said, which is Darcy Von Polgeest and Ian Bertram. Ian's work is beautiful if you like the kind of Jeff Darrow, Frank Quitely art style. This is definitely a book you should be checking out. 5 parts, this is the final edition, although hopefully there will be more from the Little Bird universe in the future. If you can grab it in singles, I do understand that there is going to be a collected version of this, but if you can't wait, definitely check it out. Little Bird, absolutely brilliant. Another 5th issue, this time from Marvel. This is Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley's Spider-Man Life Story #5. This time we're getting to the noughties, where the aging Spider-Man is having to deal with a lot of the implications of the choices he's made in the past. Only one issue left to go, but I'm finding this a quite interesting take on what would happen if Spider-Man aged in real time. Finally, from Top Shelf, it's the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Tempest #6. Behind this beautiful 2000 AD homage cover is the final comic book work from Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill. Moving forward now to the 24th of July, my comic pick of the week was the History of the Marvel Universe from Mark Waid and Javier Rodriguez. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for kind of history ofs and retellings of. I was a big fan of the Grand Design X-Men title from Ed Piskor a couple of months back, and in this one we have a complete retelling from Mark Waid of the Marvel history. The artwork looks good. It's kind of putting together all of those kind of things that you want. There's some beautiful annotations in the back that gives you a bit of more in-depth into what was going on in the Marvel universe at the time. So if you have any interest in what's been happening in the Marvel universe over the past however many decades, definitely give this a check out in your comic shops today. Then we have one of the big hitters of this year's comics. It's House of X #1 from Jonathan Hickman and Pepe Larraz. This is a restart for the Uncanny X-Men. An interesting looking book. If you've ever seen Jonathan Hickman's run on the Avengers, you'll know he's very into his graphics and additional information. And on first read through, there's an awful lot going on. There's kind of glyphs and things for you to decode to get more out of the book. An interesting first issue. I'll have more to say in in a little while as we get into the next series. But this was a strong, solid start from Jonathan Hickman on shaking up the X-Men universe. Then from Wonder Comics we have Dial H for Hero number 5 by Sam Humphries and Joe Quinones. Just fun, absolute fun. All that comics should be, and reminds me a lot of why I got into comics when I was a kid. There's some interesting stuff going on here in this book. There's a lot going on in terms of what the story's trying to tell. It takes a bit of a brief run through of the various secret origins of a lot of DC's biggest superheroes. But if you just want a fun, enjoyable read, something that you or any member of your family could read, definitely check out Dial H. Great series, and again, like Wonder Twins, this has been extended to 12 issues, so there's plenty more to come. Starting this week's roundup, we have Middle West number 9 from Image by writer Scotty Young and art by George Corona. And new from Marvel, we have Jane Foster Valkyrie number 1, written by Jason Aaron and Al Ewing with art by Cafu. Next from Image we have issue 23 of Curse Words from Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. We're getting close to the end now on Curse Words. A lot of things are happening. We're finding out a lot more about what's going on in the whole world. Also Margaret, the koala bear, gets a little bit more kind of backstory in this issue as well. We find out a little bit more about the family history there. If you haven't checked out Curse Words, I highly recommend it. It's a great story. It's more than it first appears, and I've been really digging it. Then over at Marvel, we have issue 26 of The Amazing Spider-Man. I had previously picked up issue 25 of Spider-Man just on a whim because I kind of wanted to check it out as a special anniversary issue. But what piqued my interest was Kev Walker, who is a fantastic artist, love him, British, great guy. Is now doing this with Nick Spencer. So I think there's going to be kind of rotating artists line up on there, but you know, Kev can draw a mighty fine Kingpin. So I think if you're looking for some great comics, this is a really good Spider-Man issue. A lot going on in here. Boomerang's back. So yeah, I'm kind of really finding a lot to recommend in Amazing Spider-Man. Finally for that week, I picked up Star Pig from IDW. This is by famous novelist Delia S. Dawson with art by Francesco Gaston, and again, this is a really interesting looking book. We've got what seems to be flavour of the month in fantasy at the moment, the tardigrade, but kind of piqued my interest. Nice art, nice story, certainly will be picking up the rest of this series. Then we move on to the week of the 31st of July, and this was the big week when we had the return of one of Marvel UK's greatest characters, Death's Head, in his first solo issue here of his new series, Death's Head. This is written by Trini Howard with art by Kai Zama, who some people will know from her work on some of the Transformers comics. Again, this is just marvellous. Kind of really gets the Death Head's character. Trini's artwork, Trini's writing is fantastic, and Kai's artwork is also really lovely. I'm hoping that this will mean big things ahead for a lot of the Marvel UK characters, and we see them re-emerge into the Marvel universe. But if you've never heard of Death's Head before, definitely give this a try. Highly recommended. The next book for that week was Powers of X number 1. Now this is alternating weekly with House of X. So the full story is kind of going to emerge over the 12 issues that these two series will make up. This is again by Jonathan Hickman. This time the art is by R.B. Silver, and this is taking a slightly different look to what's happening over in House of X. But again, there's an awful lot going on in here. Hickman is doing a great job. There's some interesting things going on. This is really shaking up the X universe, and if you want to, I certainly recommend you pick up both House of X and Powers of X. My roundup for this week included Paper Girls number 30 from Image. This is the final issue of the series from writer Brian K. Vaughan and artist Cliff Chang. We also had Green Lantern Annual number 1 from DC by Grant Morrison and Giuseppe Camuncoli. We had Samurai Jack Lost Worlds number 3 from IDW by Paul Allure and Adam Bryce Thomas.
Also from IDW, we have issue 2 of Kanto by David Mbua and Drew Zucker. And finally from Image, we have Ice Cream Man number 13 by W. Maxwell Price and Martin Morozo.
Next we move on to the 7th of August. My pick of the week for that week was Doom Patrol, Weight of the Worlds number 2. This is by Gerard Way and Jeremy Lambert with art by James Harvey, who is doing some phenomenal work with the art. I adore Doom Patrol. I've also already kind of expressed my love for the DC Young Animals series. Again, I can't recommend this book highly enough. It's weird, it's exciting, it's interesting. There's some amazing stuff going on in here. Please do give Doom Patrol a try as soon as you can. Then we've got House of X number 2 from Hickman and Larraz. This is continuing the story from the previous issue, but also tying into what's happening in Powers. But again, weekly, just keep on top of this story. There's a lot going on, a lot to take in. More revelations about characters that we thought we knew, but perhaps didn't quite know enough about. So do check it out. Really good work here from Hickman.
A wonderful small press book for you now from Fair Spark Books. This is Megatomic Battle Rabbit, and this is the 4th and final issue in their series from the wonderful Stu Perrins, writer and artist Israel Haratus. You might need to hunt this one down, so if you want to, you could order directly from Fair Spark Books, and I will include a link for them in the description below.
Again, another one of my favourite books, The Dreaming, from DC's Vertigo line. This is by Simon Spurrier with art by Bilquis Evesley. Issue 12. This is just a beautiful book. Totally captures everything that I loved about the original Sandman series. If you're not reading The Dreaming, please go out and catch up on it. It's a great series and is a real love letter to the original Neil Gaiman series.
Then from Marvel, we have issue 22 of the Immortal Hulk, written by Al Ewing and art by the returning Joe Bennett.
Next up, a book I picked up because of my love of some of the characters that appear in here. It's Future Foundation number 1 from Marvel. This is written by Jeremy Whitley with art by Will Robinson. This features a couple of the characters from the old Super Team Power Pack, which some of you may remember from back in the 1980s. Again, lovely artwork, and in an unusual thing to see in the Marvel Universe, these characters have aged. They once were kind of little kids, and now they're kind of older teens, young adults, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in here. Piqued my interest. Also features Dragon Man, who's a great looking character, so I will be picking up future issues of Future Foundation. Then from Image we have issue 5 of Section 0 from Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett. I really like this kind of X-Files, Challenges of the Unknown, adventure tale, very much in the tradition of old kind of adventure comics. And some interesting things happening in this issue. Probably getting close to the end of the story now, but give it a check out if you like kind of fun adventure comics. Then from DC we have the issue 4 of Deceased from Tom Taylor and Trevor Hersine, continuing its take on the kind of Marvel Zombies thing, but doing something a little bit different with it. Very impressive so far. I'm really liking the characterizations of the various characters in the story. Plenty going on, really interesting, and in the wake of the fact that there is going to be no more Walking Dead, you can get your zombie fix from this title, so go check it out. If you live in Birmingham, you can of course pick up your comics from the wonderful Worlds Apart on Smallbrook Queensway. Just head upstairs and you'll find all of their fantastic comic selections, back issues, recently published issues, and all the new comics are up the front by the cash desk. You can tune into the Geeky Brummie podcast every Saturday on the podcasting service of choice. Check our website out if you also want to find the various YouTube videos or podcasts there, easily findable on our catch-up and video pages. And I will hopefully be back at sometime soon to give you the next of my picks in my Comics Roundup. So until next time, bye!